guys, what's up? 2-Bit Jesus here, and against my counselor's better judgment, I'm going to face my trauma head on. And also, I really like playing video games, really like talking about video games. So what better way to do it than review video games on YouTube for me and for you guys. And also, the girls have kind of got tired of me moping around the house and told me to get out and do something. And reviewing games is kind of all I know how to do. So guys, of course, it's a new year, and that means new horizons, and there's not going to be some majestic, godly horse telling me what games to review. There's not going to be some place Satan trying to kill me and take over my channel, which, by the way, why didn't he just start his own channel? I don't think he ever thought that through. And lastly, there's not going to be some psychopath in a horse mask torturing me and forcing me to play games that I don't really want to play. So today we're going to be taking a look at a game I've been dying to review for years now, and that's RoboCop for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
There's not really much on the Tids and Bits for RoboCop on the NES. It's a beat-em-up / run-and-gun hybrid. It was developed and published by Data East in 1988, and of course is based on the RoboCop film from 1987. Of course, RoboCop was sub-licensed to Data East by Ocean Software, who had obtained the rights to create the game from Orion Pictures. Now, Ocean Software and Data East had a close working relationship according to the interview I read. Ocean Software let Data East create the arcade game, and Ocean Software in turn actually based their home versions off of Data East's arcade version. One last little interesting tidbit is when Ocean Software was acquiring the license to make the game, they weren't sure if this movie was going to be a blockbuster success or not, and they got the rights to make it for a mere $20,000. But luckily for Ocean Software and even Data East, by the time the games came out, the movie had already been a hit and the VHS was around the corner. And that's it for the tidbits, so let's hit the streets of Detroit with RoboCop.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
There's quite a bit I want to say on the gameplay. The main thing is that I really like the beat-em-up / run-and-gun aspects to the game. And I really like how it mixes things up, because in one part of the stage, you're doing kind of more of a beat-em-up style, and then usually about a quarter to halfway through the stage, RoboCop will grab his gun out, and then it becomes a run-and-gun section. And then once you get to the end of the level, it might switch back or switch again. It keeps switching back and forth, and it really changes up the gameplay, so it doesn't really feel grindy in a lot of parts with the gameplay. With that being said, how I like everything gets switched up. Honestly, it's very basic. RoboCop, the controls move he's very stiff in his movement, and his attacks are very basic. Like I said, the beat-em-up aspect is just a punch. All you're doing is just doing one punch, it's just one button tap, and that's it. And then with the gun section, it's just you shoot with A. And the only good thing about this is you can press start, and you can change your weapons. You have your basic gun, which has infinite ammo. You have a machine gun, which is short range but rapid fire. And then you have the Cobra, I guess, sniper rifle, or the Cobra rifle, or whatnot. And it's pretty much a one-hit kills weapon when it comes to normal enemies. When it comes to bosses, not so much one-hit kills. But most of the game you're going to run through, you're going to use the pistol. I've used the weapon for maybe a sub-boss. I've used the weapon on the bosses, the Cobra weapon and the submachine gun, but most of the game, your pistol does you just fine. One last thing about the gameplay mechanics, something I discovered late was if you hold select down, you block. The problem with this is it really didn't, I was able to successfully block moves, but it's very clunky moving over. And you block a move, and then you go to attack, but then there's a delay there, so I would end up getting hit again and lose health anyway. So honestly, the block feature doesn't work that well. Now, the one thing I really don't like is the fact that in this game they time you. Now, I get it, this is Data East porting over their arcade game to the NES, so they're wanting to bring in all the aspects, like the time and, of course, the health. But with an arcade, I understand why there's a time limit. With the home console version, I really didn't like that. But Data East does have power-up drops and time drops, meaning things that fill up your health and things that will fill up your time, but I really don't feel they give you a whole lot of chances to fill up your time. They give you enough health drops throughout the game. They don't give you enough time drops, I felt. The level design is honestly very basic. You start on the left side of the screen and you gotta move towards the right, defeating your enemies, with the occasional ascending and descending vertical, meaning going upstairs, downstairs, and all of that, but ultimately the goal is to keep moving to the right of the screen until you get to the end of the level to defeat the boss. You'll spend the majority of the game in 3 types of locations. You'll either be in the streets of Detroit, and it can either be night or day. Another major location you'll keep revisiting is either inside a factory or outside a factory. Despite the Streets of Detroit and factory levels, there are 2 other levels that are in the game. City Hall, where you save the mayor, and then finally you'll spend some time in the tower of the big bad corporation of the film, OCP. And that level in particular is the 3rd and last level, and it repeats itself really from the 3rd level, except it's a lot harder, and of course you start outside the tower and fight your way into it, and then it's pretty much the same exact level as the 3rd level, except the bad guys are more numerous and harder to beat. Now there are 2 like mini levels within the game where you do target practice to help up your high score. So I guess at the end of the game you could take the top mark, the highest score in the game. But honestly, it's boring. It doesn't work really well. It feels like something that would be in an arcade or a Zapper game, but instead you're using the D-pad, so it doesn't work really well, and it wasn't really fun for me. And I'm not really a high score type of person, but if you're into that, they have that here for you in the game. Now, another aspect of the game, of course, is the boss battles, and they are very, very basic. Like, the first one is just this big henchman, and you just have to punch the crap out of him. The second level is a guy who's kidnapped the mayor, and you have to save the mayor, and he's pretty tricky. You kind of have to like duck, let him shoot at you, and then when he does that, that gives you a shot at him, so you can stand up right away and, you know, shoot him. Eventually you do it enough, the mayor escapes, and then you can punch the crap out of that guy to defeat him. The 3rd boss is Red from that 70s show.
How you doing? Bitches leave.
Gee, Poppy.
And I just want to say, when my time comes, I want to be buried face down, so that anyone who doesn't like me can kiss my ass.
And he just essentially throws grenades at you, and he has henchmen coming up behind you. You shoot him enough, and he escapes, and then he has these 3 little guys who are like ninja kind of things, and they attack you. The 4th boss, of course, is Ed. I think it's 109 or 309. It's the big robot from the first movie that we all recognize. He's, you know, pretty tough. It takes a while to defeat him, but it's not hard. His moves are very basic. You can figure out his pattern and defeat him fairly quickly. He escapes and runs away. And from there, the next boss battle is you fighting Red, again from that 70s show. Now, this one was really hard. I died quite a bit. But then I figured, I don't know if it's a glitch or if it's intentional, but there's this crane that keeps dropping steel beams on you. But I found out on the left side of the screen, if you shoot it, it stops and it just stays still. And then you can just keep shooting at Red until eventually you defeat him. And the final boss is you fighting Ed again. It's the same boss battle. I think he might be, his health might be a little bit more buffed up, but besides that, it's the same boss battle. The challenge here is just, the level is so tough to get through. By the time you get to the end, you have little to no time to defeat Ed, or you have really low health, and that, I guess, lies the challenge. But besides that, it's the same attacks, and he's fairly easy to beat. So as far as the boss battles go, I like the big battle with Ed is nice, but honestly, all the bosses are very basic. Looking back, the boss battles aren't that memorable, and especially in the NES era, you have to have very memorable boss battles. That's what the NES era was known for, and RoboCop, sadly, comes up short on that. So I guess I'll finish this off by saying that I think RoboCop's gameplay is serviceable. It has decent mechanics. It has a decent array of bad guys to fight. You run into a handful of type of bad guys in each level, and they switch it up in some of the levels, and then in other levels I felt like they were just kind of repeating themselves. Same thing with the boss battles. They're serviceable, but they're nothing big or special. The level design is very basic. So, all in all, I would give RoboCop's gameplay 2 bits.
I'd buy that for $1.
Out of 4.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
This here is going to be a very short section, because RoboCop's sound is very minimalistic, let's just say. So essentially, you have like your punch sound and your gun sound, and I think there might be a handful of other sound effects in the game. As far as the music for RoboCop goes, it's one song. Actually, I take that back. There's a handful of songs. Most of them are really just short melodies, but essentially you have the title screen melody, which plays if you just leave the game sitting at the title screen. It'll go into this little intro and play a melody. And then you have your basic level clear melody, game over melody. You have a boss battle theme, of course, for the boss battles, a theme for the shooting range minigame, a song that plays during the credits, but the next song I'm about to mention is the one that you will hear about 90% of the time in this game, and that is the level theme, the song that plays on every single level, and that is the RoboCop theme. Now, I'm a huge fan of the RoboCop theme, but even I was tired of it after listening to it for 2 straight hours, so I can't imagine what a non-fan or someone who doesn't really have an opinion on the song would feel about listening to this damn song for that long. RoboCop's soundtrack leaves a lot to be desired compared to other great NES soundtracks, so I'm gonna have to give it 1 bit.
I'd buy that for $1.
Out of 4.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
I really like the graphics in this game. Now, it's not, like, amazing compared to some other NES titles, but I feel like they really captured the look of RoboCop. It looks like him. It really feels like the world of RoboCop. It's a post-industrialization / industrial decay / urban decay look to it. And I feel like they really captured that. You know, the world that you go through in this game looks really dirty and run down and dingy, and that was the movie. Now, the story of the game, I would say, loosely follows the movie's plot. The reason I say loosely is they touch upon a lot of the high points in the movie, like saving the mayor in City Hall, or chasing down Red in the narcotics factory, fighting the big robot, and in the end, of course, defeating that corporate scumbag and shooting him and killing him. Now, I would have liked to have, the first level been you playing Murphy, and then, you becoming RoboCop at the end of the first level or beginning of second level, but I understand. They were making this game for kids. It was marketed to kids, so showing a brutal cop killing, probably that had to be axed. So I understand that. It follows all the important plot points of the movie, so I gotta give it high points for that. So the story, the graphics, the overall immersion into the world, I give it high marks. 3 bits.
I'd buy that for $1.
Out of 4.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Data East's RoboCop for the NES is pretty decent. I enjoyed it. Though I wouldn't say it's a game that I'm going to be picking up and playing a lot. It's the type of game that you pick up and you play for a couple of hours, have an enjoyable time, and then you set it on the shelf for a while until a year, 2 years later, you get that itch to play it again. So I think it is definitely worth picking up for the hardcore collector, and I would even say the casual collector of the NES. RoboCop, I would say, is a decent movie-to-game crossover in an era where we really didn't see that a whole lot. I mean, I think of The Predator, Home Alone, to name a few, Back to the Future. I could just keep going down the list of games that are based on movies that didn't really translate well, where RoboCop, I think, does a decent job. It hits the high points of the movie's story, and then also gives you some pretty, fun gameplay, albeit, a short amount of time fun, not a game that you're going to be playing for weeks on end. You can find RoboCop online loose for about $6, and if you're looking for complete in box, it's going to cost you around $20. Honestly, I would lean more on looking for the loose copy, because you don't need to be spending $20 on this game. It's a fun game, but it's not $20 fun. It's $6 range is perfect for it. Going to give you, at least 1 or 2 hours, or I would even say maybe a couple of nights of fun before you put it down and move on to the next game. Anyway, guys, that's it for RoboCop. It's in the books. I enjoyed playing it and reviewing it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. And once again, Happy New Year, guys. I'll see you in the next review. As always, stay safe and play on.